Welcome to episode 95 of the Bandhive podcast.
You're listening to the Bandhive podcast, the #1 online resource for DIY bands to learn about the music business and touring. If you want to turn your band into a lean, mean touring machine, you're in the right place. Now, let's get this show on the road.
It is time for another episode of the Bandhive podcast. My name is James Cross, and I'm here with Matt Hose of Alive in Barcelona. Matt, it's been longer than 15 minutes, but less than a week since we last spoke. How have you been doing in the last 4 hours or so?
You know, man, the day has only gotten better. We got to go and have an ultrasound and see a picture of our newest baby that's on the way. So it's pretty exciting to do that.
Oh, that's amazing. The family is expanding. That's bringing you up to 3, so... And your first daughter as well. So congratulations.
Thank you. 3's company. I'm sure my boys will be eager to beat her up nice and young. So.
Oh, boy. At least she'll have the older brothers when she's in high school.
Oh, yeah. She'll be fierce. No joke. I mean, my wife's already pretty fierce. And on top of that, if my boys have anything to say about it, they're both pretty wild. I mean, they're sweethearts, but they definitely wrestle. And so it's like they're going to have this new baby sister. Just by proxy and the fact that she's going to have older brothers, she's going to be tough.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. You've now officially, or you will in a few months, have maxed out the capacity of a standard sedan.
Yeah, don't remind me.
You're going to need a larger vehicle.
Yeah, don't remind me. They're not cheap.
Yeah, that's for sure. Especially touring vehicles, which we're going to talk about a little later in the episode. You like my segue there?
I did. That was great. You should tour in a Segway.
Oh, at 12 miles an hour. They went out of business, though. The company shut down a couple years ago.
Probably because the guy who started the company literally died while testing an off-road Segway.
I totally forgot about that. I guess he could not roll with the punches.
Oh my gosh.
Too soon? I apologize if anyone's related to him. I'm sincerely sorry. That was just low-hanging fruit. If that was a limbo bar, would have driven right into it. I tried too hard.
Oh, gosh. And got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter.
I guess, I mean, that is an accurate description of the situation.
All right.
Well, we're going to have a rather lighthearted and fun and easy podcast this week. We're talking about what you should pack for shows or tour, and not necessarily like the gear and all that stuff. We've talked about that a lot the last few weeks and keeping track of things with checklists on episode 92, which if you want to listen to that, you can go to bandhive.rocks/92. Or on episode 94, we talked about labeling things, which I definitely recommend, bandhive.rocks/94. But now it's coming down to the personal items that you want to have with you on the road. So Matt and I are each going to share what we consider essential in our own packs. Then we're going to have some things that our listeners have added, our lovely Bandhive group members at bandhive.rocks/group, or if you search for Bandhive on Facebook, got to get the plug in there, of course. And then we're going to close things out with stuff for the van or bus if you're really killing it. But for most of us, that's going to be the van. I'm just going to dive right in, Matt, because I think this is going to be a pretty quick thing for each of us. The first thing that I double check for my backpack, and that's going to be the thing that everyone is going to need to double check, is all your electronics. So iPad, iPhone, laptop, whatever it is, the chargers to go with it, any accessories, AirPods, headphones, in-ears, all that kind of stuff. Don't leave home without it. Just to reference back to episode 92, I make a checklist of everything that I need to pack. In the week or so before a tour, I'll start making a list of what I need to take with me so I know that everything is in there the day that I leave. The second thing is passports. For me, that's 2, just because I have dual citizenship with the US and Germany. But even if you don't, you might actually have 2 passports. A lot of people on the road actually have, for example, 2 US passports, because there are certain places that you can't travel if you have a stamp from certain countries. So sometimes it's very useful to have 2 passports, and it is legal. The U.S. government will issue you a second passport, and that way if you want to go to, some country that is picking a bone with the Middle East and wouldn't let you in if you have a Middle East passport stamp in it, let's say Iran, Afghanistan, wherever, you can show them the other passport so the customs agents don't see that you've been to that country. So it's a way to protect your privacy. Then you would want to have your standard ID. You know, if you're driving, you want your driver's license. If you don't drive, which kind of sucks for your bandmates. Then you would want your non-driver's ID and emergency cash. I tend to just keep like about $100 in cash, not in my wallet, because my wallet's always on me. So that way, if my wallet gets stolen or something like that, I know, hey, I have my backpack in the green room or in the van with some emergency cash in it. The idea is that they're never in the same place at the same time, unless it's like me walking into the venue or into a hotel or something like that. The only time they're together is like 5 or 10 minutes a day tops. It's just good to have some emergency funds out there for you. Next thing is a pen and notepad, because you never know when you're going to have to write something down, especially if your phone dies. It's really great to have a pen and paper handy. And that way, if you need to leave a note for somebody, great. I don't put sticky notes in my backpack, but hey, if that's how you want to roll, do sticky notes instead of a backpack, and then you can sticky everything all over the place. Sunglasses, super important. I just ordered my first pair of prescription sunglasses, thanks to Zenny, so shout out to them. Got my eyes checked a couple weeks ago and got 3 pairs of glasses for under $100. So we're not sponsored or affiliated with them, but just want to shout them out because they have good stuff for cheap prices. So if you wear glasses, check out Zenny. Again, not sponsored. It's just a product that I use and stand behind. Next up is a Maglite pocket flashlight. I have a little one. Maybe this will make it into a video clip, maybe not, but it's super bright. I'm blinding Matt right now. And it does cool stuff like you can turn it into a strobe. It does an SOS pattern. I didn't click it right. But you can do all kinds of stuff. It was like $30 and it's super bright. Fits in your back pocket or your front pocket, but I don't recommend that.
That's the sound guy in you right there. Maglite pocket flashlight. Literally is like, I need something super bright for when I stick my head in the back of this rack and try to figure out these 10 billion cables that are all overlapping with each other.
I actually got yelled at by another band's sound guy because I was setting up merch in a super dark venue, and it was a weird setup. They had like an early evening show and then a late evening show. And so I was setting up merch, and I was using the flashlight to see what I was doing. And he's like, yo, can you turn that off? It's like really annoying for people watching the show, which, to put it into perspective, the show was in the basement with like an open area around it. And then I was up on a balcony, basically 90 degrees from where the stage and audience were. So it was like not shining at the show at all. And I was like, okay, dude, but like there's no lights here. I kind of need this. Just like, yeah, just don't point it at the stage. I'm like, dude, I'm not pointing at the stage. There's a window right next to me that it's reflecting off of. I can't really do much about that. But yeah, this little Maglite that fits in my hand did that. And I've seen some tour people with like giant flashlights. I'm like, dude, you do realize that you could have something like a tenth of that size that has the same output power. It's the magic for LEDs. You don't need a baseball bat sized flashlight anymore.
High lumens. That's all you need is high lumens.
Yeah, there'll be an Amazon link in the show notes, and that will be an affiliate deal because, you know, we're cheap like that. Give us that 1% of the sale that Amazon pays out. But no, really, these flashlights are great. And it's also really cool. Like if you are taking the stage and all the stage lights are dark and you want to like let the sound person know that you're coming out, you can wave a flashlight at them. Just tell them in advance, be like, yo, when we wave the flashlight at you, that means we're about to hit the stage. So get ready, cut the house music. That's what a lot of artists do if they don't have radios. I never thought I would spend like 5 minutes talking about flashlights, but I apparently just did. Next up is an external battery bank. That way you can always keep charging, especially if you're working like festivals or something. You want a battery bank that you can just stick in your back pocket and have your phone plugged in the whole day if you're running around. That way you never run out of battery. Earplugs. I have Ultimate Ears custom earplugs. They cost me like $200 to get done, but that was over 10 years ago. It was July of 2011. And I'm still using them to this day. So if you average it out, that's about $20 a year on earplugs. Totally worth it because they're super comfortable. It fits way better than the foam or the little like Christmas tree type earplugs. I definitely recommend it. Ultimate Ears is good. There's a couple other brands that do it. And you just go to like an audiologist and they do a mold of your ears and then you get custom earplugs. So yeah, protect your hearing. And I also keep foam plugs as a backup. Sometimes you don't need the most comfort or you don't need to hear accurately, so it's okay if you have something that cuts all the high end ridiculously but doesn't do much for bass. So foam plugs work for that. Business cards. You know, it's something that's good to have. I would just have band business cards. So if somebody's like, oh, hey, where can we check you out? You can be like, here you go. And it's not going to be like a traditional business card that says sales manager for XYZ band. It's going to be like, hey, this band, find us on socials at these links. Here's our website. Here's our Spotify. Here's a QR code you can scan to get to our link tree or our Sleek bio. Tour documents. I'm always going to have a copy of all that stuff in my backpack. Obviously, everything's digital, but I'm kind of old school and I like to keep a tour binder as well. That way I don't have to leave any electronics at the merch table if I'm not there supervising. I can say to a fan like, hey, here's the binder with a printed out merch sheet and just tally off stuff as you sell it. Like if we're up on stage and you're selling stuff for us, just tally it off because my laptop's locked away in the back somewhere. And then last but not least, baby wipes. These are so ridiculously helpful. I was the kind of guy who would shower every day on Warped Tour, but it would still be nice to, when I wake up in the morning, baby wipe off real quick because I would shower at night. Like after being hot and sweaty all day, I wouldn't want to get into a bunk totally filthy and grimy. And then just, wake up in the morning, baby wipe, put on deodorant and be like, okay, good to go. So yeah, that's the essentials for my pack list. I've probably forgot something because I didn't actually make a checklist. Oh, one more thing, a pencil. It's always good to have a pencil because some things should not be in pen.
See, this is all about practicality. That's the whole point of this episode, is we want you people to realize that practicality is everything. One of my favorite quotes is, when you're making a plan, the plan is often useless, but the planning is invaluable. And this is kind of just those things that really keep you sane on the road. And it's just things you don't think about. So, James, you had a great list.
Just to add real quick, sometimes a pencil really is better. Back in the 60s and 70s for the space race, the U.S. could not get ballpoint pens to work in space. So they spent, I forget, it was either 20,000 or 20 million, or I don't know the exact number, but some obscene amount of money developing a pen that would work in space. The Russians used a pencil. So sometimes you just got to go the practical route. Anyway, Matt, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, not at all. That's very pertinent. But James, you had a great list. I think a lot of those things I double down on. Earplugs and on baby wipes and a external battery pack, sunglasses for sure. Just the idea of like living your whole life squinting, just like, oh, my eyes hurt so bad from the sun. Yeah, no, sunglasses are fantastic, both for while you're driving, walking around, and if you're an extremely cool musician, you can even get custom-made sunglasses that don't actually dim anything, and so you can wear your sunglasses inside at nighttime. So a lot of rock stars like doing that. I heard one guy say, I asked him, I was like, oh, are those very dark? He goes, no, dude, these aren't dark at all. They're the same tint as outside. And I was like, really? He's like, oh, yeah, dude, I'm full douche. And I was like, what an interesting way to describe yourself. He's like, yep, so that way I can wear my sunglasses all the time. It's like, hey, man, you said it out loud, not me. So, yeah, I love sunglasses, love baby wipes, love external battery bank. You're on your phone so much when you're on tour, so like that's just super valuable to have. I've actually even been able to help other fans with external battery packs before. I remember being down in Dallas one time. We just finished playing Trees, and this girl at the show was like about to hyperventilate because she didn't have a charge on her phone. Her phone is at like 1%, and she was waiting on her ride to pick her up. So she was just terrified that her phone was going to die and her ride wouldn't be able to find her. She wasn't from Dallas. So I was like, is there any way you can help me? And so I actually had 3 spare battery banks, so I could always rotate. And I let her use one. And I was like, this girl's probably going to steal this from me, being like, oh yeah, this is the singer for this band. But no, super sweet girl. She plugged her phone in, charged it up as much as possible until her ride got there. Then she came and returned it to me and was like, super thankful. In that particular situation, like, it was cool for me because I got to help her out and she didn't have to feel like she was stranded in downtown Dallas. But also it really showed the utility is not just for yourself. Considering the fact that I had 3 battery banks, I would constantly be loaning them out to my bandmates. It's also something really, really useful because you use Square or PayPal here or some type of point of sale system at your merch table. And if you don't have your battery charged on your phone, well, then, to put it lightly, you look like a jackass. You're like, oh yeah, hold on, let me charge my phone real quick so that I can take your card information. I know we've talked about having your batteries charged in episodes past, but these things are very, very, very important to not overlook. I mean, in my opinion, not having a charged point of sale system at your merch table is just as unprofessional as like walking out on stage with a guitar that has a broken string. Your professionalism has to be seen from start to finish, putting your best foot forward, make your mistakes behind closed doors, essentially. And then when people are looking at you, make sure that your phones are charged.
Yeah, you don't want to be amateur hour. It's not worth it.
Right. And I think you had something to add to that, right, James?
Yeah, I just want to say, you remembered the story from Dallas, helping that girl out, charging her phone. You know who else remembers that? She does. She is probably like, oh my God, that band was so cool. I'm a fan for life. They totally saved my butt. I'm going to listen to them every time they put out a new album. I'm remembering that. Looking back at the interactions I had with bands when I was a teenager, and I'm just assuming she was a teenager. Maybe she wasn't. But either way, if a band interacted with me like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to remember this forever. And I got to say, I'm really lucky that I've had a lot of great interactions with artists, just because I've always kind of been trying to get my foot in the door of the music industry. And I was able to do that very early on. I think I was like, let's see. I started doing interviews at 16, started working shows at 17, I guess. Either way, lots of great memories with artists who are super chill. You go in for an interview, they're like, oh, hey, can we get you anything to drink from the bus fridge? I'm like, oh, no, I'm good, thanks. But it's still like some artists don't offer that, and others are like, no, you're a guest here. We are going to make you as comfortable as we possibly can.
Yep.
Culminating with the last time I interviewed AFI, we had just taken over running the official news portion of their site. And this is totally off topic for the episode, but I just want to say like how moments like this are so memorable. Their drummer, Adam, came out. Adam was so kind, and we were all there, everybody who worked for the HQ. He said, when we go into the studio, I have one pair of sticks for every single song, and I only use it for that song. And I just write the song name on the sticks, and then I put them away. So I've got here a box of sticks from the album, and you each get to pick a song. And so that's what's up on my wall right behind me is the drumsticks for their song Dark Snow off of the Blood album, or self-titled AFI album from 2017. That's a memory I'm never going to forget because he literally gave away half of his drumsticks that night. Like there were 6 of us there, and he gave us each a set of those sticks. That's a piece of history right there. AFI is not like a small band. People care about that band, and that was just one of the coolest moments of my life to have that recognition from somebody being like, you've done a lot of work for us. I want to give this to you. My point here is your fans will absolutely remember when stuff like that happens, whether it's lending them a battery bank or giving them a set of drumsticks or a guitar pick or whatever. That's just so cool in my opinion. Anyway, Matt, sorry to sidetrack for so long while you're doing your list there.
Oh, I love it. I really hadn't even started. I was doubling down on yours. So here's mine. Here's the things that you definitely forgot. A very long phone charger, okay? If you have a van or a bus or anywhere that allows you or forces you to sit or sleep somewhere that you're far away from power, you will need a long power cord in order to keep your phone charged. For instance, we have bunks in our bus. Some guys sleep on the top bunk. That, by nature, is already like 6 feet off the ground. So for them to even have the ability to plug their charger in, they need a long cable. For us, we actually have a power strip that runs up the side, and I can't remember if we zip tied it or Velcroed it or whatever, but it's attached to the end of the bunk. So that way a 3-foot cable will do. But the thing is, you're limited to where your power supply is coming from in the van. Most of the time, if you want a good power supply, you need to go get a power inverter and actually hook it up to your battery. And you want to make sure you have it hooked up to a battery that's like strong and good, maybe even a second battery if you have the space for it. So that way you're not drawing from the power of the vehicle, but that'll allow you to power your things on the inside. It'll only power certain things. It'll power your computers. It'll power your phone chargers. It'll power standard electronics. You could even do TVs off it, stuff like that, game consoles. What you can't do is, it depends on the inverter. Some people are able to do it, but things like blow dryers, coffee makers are like right on the line. Pretty much anything you would think that gets plugged into a kitchen or a bathroom. In a standard home, those are the circuits that have higher voltage in the circuit. So you have 15 amps in kitchens and 10 in regular. I can't remember the exact numbers, but
yeah, 15 and 20.
Is it 15? Okay, so yeah, 15 and 20. So basically kitchens and bathrooms require more power. And so things that you would plug in there, hair straighteners, blow dryers, coffee machines, all of those kind of like active power things, those don't really work well on power inverters. And so your power is going to be in a specific place, most likely, which means that you need a long phone charger for it to be able to reach all the different places you need it to, especially like your bunk when you're driving 800 miles and you're like, wow, I really like to be able to watch a movie and charge my phone. So that's number one. Tea and honey. I'm a singer, so being able to have tea, for us, we actually do have a coffee pot. It's actually it's for tea. And it uses a little less power than a standard coffee pot does. So we are able to actually make hot water with it just because it turns on a heating element. It's very simple, very archaic. Being able to make tea in the van for us was like super important. We have a screamer in our band. So it's nice to be able to wake up in the morning, start your day off with hot tea, honey. Great for the throat. Throat coat tea is a fantastic one. But honestly, when all is said and done, there is nothing that you can do better for yourself than just hydrate. You're on the road, so just drink as much water as you can. You're going through different elevations, so drink as much water as you can. Your body's going to react different ways to different humidities, climates, different seasons, allergens, pollens. And pretty much the answer to all of those and staying better, staying healthy on the road is drinking more water. So stay hydrated, but also keep that tea close. As a singer, I have to make sure that I get a lot of sleep while I'm on the road too, because if you start to get sick, then it's almost impossible to recover while you're on the road. I generally bring some type of my own med kit. I have asthma. I have eczema. I am a very light sleeper. My drummer has sleep apnea. So there's a cocktail of things that I generally bring to make sure that I'm okay. I need to have my inhaler. I need to have cream for my eczema. I have Benadryl too. That helps with my allergies going through different climates. It also helps some of the nights to sleep through my drummer's sleep apnea. Sometimes this is just something that you have, most nights we don't hear him. Every once in a while, he sounds like we have a bear inside of our bus. We've figured out ways to not easy ways, but we've figured out the hard way and how to deal with it over the years to avoid, breaking REM cycles and not getting quality sleep. Some of the time it was as simple as popping in some headphones and taking a Benadryl. And then you'd be able to breathe wonderfully all night. You'd sleep well. And on top of that, it would the Dramamine would help you fall asleep, even if he was snoring. So that's more of a personal thing, but some people will struggle with that. Some people won't. If you have trouble sleeping on the road, take a Benadryl and see how it helps you, because it definitely is something that will ease you into sleeping a little bit more comfortably in a foreign environment. So highest marks there. Dry shampoo. Dry shampoo is super clutch because not all of us can be a pretty boy like James and shower after every Warped Tour date. Some of us have to be dirty, grimy, disgusting, nasty people who just sweat profusely and then get in the van, sleep in their own filth, and then have to wake up and do it the next day. For those people, I recommend dry shampoo. Very similar to baby powder or a talcum powder, only it's scented wonderfully and actually has some good cleaning products. And honestly, it's just nice too, because when you're on a hot summer tour and you're just disgusting, sticking this powder in and it just makes your hair go from feeling disgusting and grimy to oh, my hair feels nice again. And then you can at least function. This is like a Band-Aid. This is not the healing process. This is the Band-Aid that is all right, I'm disgusting. It's 2 more days until I'm going to be able to shower. I have to stand at the merch table. So I need to make sure I have a really strong deodorant / perfume / cologne. And I need to make sure I've got some dry shampoo. Some musicians actually will even, as soon as they finish playing, if there's a green room or a shower, they will instantly go and shower, change their clothes before they go and see their fans. Not all of us can be divas like that. Some of us just got to be disgusting and say, hey, welcome to the 150-degree Warped Tour, where we're all going to sweat together and smell gross. Let's have a little dry shampoo.
Yeah. Fun story about dry shampoo is the TSA does not consider it dry. TSA considers it a liquid because it's in a can, and I guess it is technically a liquid when it's compressed. I think it was my second Warped Tour. A friend and I met up in Boston to fly out to the start of the tour together because she was on the same team as I. Security took away her dry shampoo from her carry-on. So if you're flying somewhere, just because it says dry does not mean it's not a liquid.
Well, and that's a good point too, James. We'll side note that because there are certain things that it might be common to think you should bring on tour that you shouldn't actually bring on tour. And we'll get to those in a little bit. But dry shampoo when flying is one of those things. Also with dry goods, not only dry shampoo, but dry food. Some ramen noodles. If you have the ability to make hot water, a cup of noodles, something simple. This doesn't need to be how you feed yourself on your entire tour. But if it's 10 o'clock at night, somebody wakes up and they're like, man, I'm really hungry and everything's closed, or it's 150 miles to the next city. A great thing you can do is heat up some water and make yourself a cup of noodles to tide yourself over. I really like dry food and canned food. Canned food holds its integrity well in terms of shelf life and holds its integrity well in terms of it's in a metal can. So it's really nice to be able to have. Keep in mind, if you don't have a can opener and it's the old style of can, it doesn't have an easy pop top open like a can of Campbell's Soup or whatever. If it's an old style can, you'll need to have a can opener as well. So keep that in mind. Or just go with the ones that have the cool little soda can opener on the top, like pre-made meals in a can. These are fantastic for emergencies. And you never know, like heaven forbid, you pop a tire on the side of the road in between Albuquerque and Phoenix. And you're just like, dude, it's 100 degrees here. Like we need to eat some food. We need to have water. So food and water especially are just very important things to have as a part of your pack, or even in the trailer or whatever. That can be a van good. It doesn't have to be your personal stash, but if you want to hoard the good stuff to yourself, that's a good idea, is to bring some extras. Now, my personal favorite is extra socks. I'm sure I've said this before, but a fresh pair of socks is like literally the difference between murdering your bandmates and not. And what I mean by that is it's always the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's never the big load. You know, your band can go through hell and back, and then it's something stupid. Like I remember one time we had been on Warped Tour for it was day 35, and we're just all tired and exhausted, not sleeping, not eating well, drinking too much, living vicariously. And it was me and Phil and Jesse, and we stopped at this rest stop. And we were just all tired, and it had been a long tour. We went in and went to the bathroom. And on the way out, I saw this piece of modern art that I just thought was absolutely disgusting. And I was like, what is this trash? I was like, people call this garbage art. This looks like a child threw paint at a canvas when he was mad and sold it. I was like, this is garbage. Well, Phil really took offense to that because we had been on tour for 35 days and he was miserable. And maybe he liked it. Maybe he thought it was artistic. Maybe he took that as a personal attack. And so literally, Phil just freaks out on me. And I'm tired and I'm angry. And I freak out back on him. And then before we know it, the two of us are just screaming at each other. And then Jesse had to mitigate. He's like, dude, Phil, you just jumped down Matt's throat because he said he didn't like a piece of art. Matt, you just retaliated crazily. I was like, yeah, well, I went back to the car and I changed my socks. Having a fresh pair of socks on my feet was like, all the pain was gone. I know they're clean. They're brand new. They're still folded. They're ironed to fit inside of their plastic sleeve. So generally, every single tour, I buy 1 or 2 brand new packs of socks. It is my ritual. I will never, ever, ever go on a tour without a brand new package of socks. Even it's after you play a show and you're just exhausted and you go back even just to bed. And you take your shoes off from playing, your feet reek, you've been sweating, you're maybe wearing boots or whatever, your socks are stuck to your feet, and you're like, oh, this is gross. Get a little water, rinse them off, dry them off, put on fresh socks before you go to bed. And you're just like, oh, this is like sleeping on a cloud because you're so used to living in a van down by the river, living like garbage, traveling from parking lot to parking lot. And you're like, yes, fresh socks, I'm walking on cloud 9.
And then if your bandmates start getting on your nerves, you can tell them to put a sock in it.
And I can literally give them a fresh sock to do so.
No, you give them the old one. You put on the fresh ones and give them the old stinky ones.
Ew. Oh, they don't want that. Nobody wants the old stinky ones.
That's the point.
Dude, there's times when we literally have just gotten finished playing a show and it's like, yep, just take those socks off and throw them in the garbage. Nobody's ever going to want to wear those again. That's not even good enough to give away.
My Warped Tour shirts still smell like Warped Tour 5 years later.
Pretty much. They're tainted forever.
There's no coming back.
They have a weird sweat stain on the shoulders. And yeah.
Oh, they're bleached. The sun bleached them.
Completely. Same shirt every day. No.
Same 3.
Yeah, right. So speaking of clothing, we just mentioned socks. Swimming wear is also an incredibly important thing to have. It doesn't matter what season you're going into, because if it's going into a warm season, there's a chance you're going to run across a water park or have a day off where you might want to do something fun. You might, at some point, if it's a long tour, stay in a hotel, and you might decide you want to go to their pool or their hot tub. Doesn't matter what season it is. You may also be traveling down south, and you're from the north, and you're like, wow, my place is 30 degrees right now. I traveled down south, and now it's 70 degrees. And the idea of getting in the water sounds wonderful. So there's plenty of applications for swimwear. It's a really good thing to have. Sometimes you might even want to have it for the places you have to shower. Some places have like public showers and things like that. If you like a little extra privacy, it's nice to have swimwear. Don't bring a towel. And here's why. Towels get used one single time, and then they retain their water. And then you have this big, soppy mess. You have nowhere to put it but inside the trailer. And hopefully you have some hooks on the inside of your trailer. Then what that does is that turns your trailer, if it's warm, into this giant, humid swamp box because you have wet towels instead of a hot wooden box. And it gets absolutely disgusting. So don't bring a towel. I would honestly recommend going to either a dollar store or a Walmart and buying a new towel whenever you need it for very cheap. Maybe even going in on a towel with one of your bandmates and the both of you decide that you're going to use the same towel to dry off. I mean, seriously, you can buy a towel for like $4 and then throw it away. Unless you have plans to actively go and do laundry after every single time you shower, and there's no way around this. If anybody has any good ideas on how to dry their towels, I'm all ears because it doesn't happen. It literally just turns your entire trailer into like just mildew. It smells like mold house. And you open it up and it wafts in your face and you literally regret every life decision you ever made because you brought one single towel. So it's better to just go to like the store and buy a $4 towel. It depends on how often you shower and depends on how often you do laundry. If you're just gung-ho about a schedule and a routine and it's like, oh, every other day we go and do laundry. Every morning we wake up, we go to Planet Fitness for showering. And if you have just like this awesome schedule that you're able to maintain or you've set up a routine, then power to you. And that's awesome. Go for it. For you guys, I'd recommend a mesh laundry bag. Mesh laundry bags are like when you get dirty laundry, stick it in a bag that breathes, and then you can store that in the trailer as well. So that way it doesn't get all mildewy and gross because it actually has the opportunity to breathe. And then if you're doing laundry like every other day, then you don't really have to worry about everything getting super disgusting in your trailer or turning it into a swamp box. So again, if anybody has good ideas on towels, go for it. But until you get to a point where you have a friend in every city across the United States that is going to let you stay at their house after a show and would allow you to do laundry there, until you get to that point, you run the risk of just like turning your trailer into a disgusting swamp box. I cannot stress how disgusting it is. Especially if you keep things like your merch and your musical gear and your food. We don't keep our food in the laundry room for a reason. It's gross. So get stuff like that. If you do go swimming, you need things like sunscreen, hats, and sunglasses. As a ginger, I like sunscreen. Try to make sure you're getting as much vitamin D, though, as possible because vitamin D is super important for your health. And especially when you're on tour, good vitamin D is quality. You can go a long time without getting vitamin D because you're going from inside the van to inside of dark venues. So soak up that vitamin D while you can. Now, I really like this one too. It's a Bluetooth headphones, specifically Bluetooth headphones. And the reason is because your charge port on your phone most likely will be monopolized by your charger. You can also use a splitter. If you have some small device that allows you to both charge your phone and to use headphones at the same time, then use that. Or if you have, a wireless charger or whatever, there's all sorts of ways you can do it. But the point is you want your charging device and your headphones device to not connect the same way. That way, if you want to watch a movie while your battery is low, you can still do that. So Bluetooth speakers are something that allow for that. Or let's say you have an iPad and you want to be able to watch a movie more than one of you. A Bluetooth speaker connected to the iPad is absolutely wonderful. Just a little mobile DVD player, nice and simple. Two people sitting in the same seat can watch it if they're feeling like it. It's a nice piece of entertainment. I highly recommend everybody have whatever their form of entertainment is. If you like playing Magic the Gathering, bring some decks. If you like playing video games, find a way to bring a TV and your console. Any type of small stress relievers that you have, you really need to capitalize on those. When you're out on tour, it's hard. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You always will get sick of like one or two of your bandmates at any given moment. You're always going to want your space sometimes. Sometimes you're going to disagree on what event you should go and do. And it's always nice to have just like a few options rather than wherever you're geographically located. Like sometimes you don't want to go to the next city and go walking around the next city. You've done that for the last 4 days in a row. And sometimes you're just like, dude, to be honest, I want to get on World of Warcraft and go like slay some people. And that's cool. Do that. highest recommendations. I've never, ever, ever been on tour with an artist who didn't spend at least a couple of the days on tour doing something that they would do as like a home hobby while they're on tour. The easiest way to succeed in tour life is to make it as close to home life as possible, so you're not having to make these drastic changes. Pre-workout. We like to go to Planet Fitness. Having some pre-workout is really awesome. You need bottles of water in order to mix your pre-workout comfortably, unless you're bringing dishes from you location to location. So keep water, bottles of water, gallons of water, whatever you need. It's good to have emergency water and then potable water. So water for your van and then water for you to drink. Also, a nice thing that I like to have, it's the last thing on my list, is that when you're driving, some of the time, especially if you're doing long stretches in the Midwest or on the West Coast, there's a lot of long, straight roads with nothing to look at. Best way to deal with that is to have some type of small munchie. Gum is a munchie that I would consider good for driving. Sunflower seeds are a great munchie for driving. Beef jerky, something like that. Something that's kind of like a small, repetitious, hand-to-mouth kind of gesture. Something that keeps you cognitively, kind of passively functioning. There's studies done when we were kids, James, about how chewing gum actually helps you when you're taking tests because your brain is firing on more neurons. And so it's like a small form of rapid tasking. It just kind of keeps you sharper. I would equate that to this. It's just an extra little thing that your body is doing that's not just like trying to focus on a straight road late at night or whatever. I drink coffee. I love it. I drink it 50% for the effect of the caffeine, but 50% of it for the temperature. And so this is kind of a similar thing. Just it's an extra stimulant to help you focus on really whatever your main goal is. And any little things that you can do in order to keep you and your bandmates safe is always a good thing in my opinion, especially when you're driving 200 to 400 miles every night. Lower the possibility of those extraneous risks as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things, a similar thing is if you get motion sickness, which thankfully I don't, but chewing gum can help with that as well. So it's amazing what having a little something to chew on can do for you. Well, Matt, thanks for sharing your list. That's awesome. I think there's quite a few things there that, I didn't think of. Definitely like the sunblock, which is something I need, but depending on the tour, I didn't pack it. That's something that I should always have with me. One note for canned goods is if you are doing that, you want to make sure you're not getting high sodium canned goods just because that will dehydrate you. And if you're stuck in the middle of the desert, you don't want to be dehydrated. But still, definitely a good call. Have some canned goods out there. Towels, I personally like to carry one. That might be because I typically did bus tours. I was lucky with that. So I would just hang it off my bunk in the air-conditioned bus and it would cool off and dry off really quickly.
Must be nice.
Oh, it was amazing. I loved it. I saw people hang their towels off of the bus mirrors, though, and that is just gross because if you've ever seen a vehicle, the front of the vehicle is covered in dead splattered bugs. So I would never put something that I'm going to rub on my body on the areas of that vehicle that are covered in bugs. That just seems like a disgusting idea to me.
It bugs you?
Oh, yeah. It bugs me like Bugs Bunny. Hey, what's up, Doc? So anyway, I think we're going to move on here and get into what our listeners, our group members, have recommended. First up, Richard Carlson says a multi-tool. Yes, good choice, Richard. That's something that personally I don't actually carry, even though I probably should. But for any of the tours where I was doing tech or TM work, I had like a giant case. And it wasn't like a road case. It was just like a plastic 3-drawer office setup type thing that had latching drawers. And I just would fill that with like extra strings, tools, anything that I would need. I didn't have a multi-tool, but I had everything separately. But I probably should have a multi-tool in my backpack just in case. Nate Bonet says granola bars or other snacks. Specifically, he said peanut butter and bread. I agree. Cliff bars are very good. Sarah King, and I should mention, we're taking out things that were already mentioned previously. So for those of you who mentioned stuff, if it's not on here, that's because Matt and I had already mentioned it up above somewhere. But Sarah King says water bottles, throat lozenges. If the show has a green room, she will also take her gig clothes and makeup and do it there. mouthwash, and then a splash of whiskey just for the pre-show. She'll take one sip to get ready for the show. And then she keeps all her tools, stage supplies, and power for gear in a separate bag and takes 2 backpacks, which I think is a great idea because that way you have a personal bag and a work bag. Zach Fulton of Common Choir, Matt, he's got one on here that I think you're going to like. It's the last one. I'll get to it. I'll save it for last. Cough drops, vitamins with fiber, Tide pens for when you get a stain on your clothes, a neck pillow like what you would see on airplanes, which, fun fact, they're actually the way most people wear it with like the U at the back and the opening at the front. You turn them around and that way you can put your head down and it's resting on the pillow. So you can do it right or wrong. There is actually a wrong way.
You can trust James on that too. He's totally an aviation nerd. He would know about the airplane neck donut.
Well, ironically, I cannot sleep on planes. Like, there's too much going on, which is a good thing because that means I'm not going to fall asleep while flying a plane. So there's a plus side to that. And then here's Zachary's last one that I said I think you're going to enjoy, which is a camping towel. Apparently they fold up really small, and I'm not sure if they work.
Nope. Go home, Zachary.
You don't agree?
Zachary, you're drunk. Go home. No.
What needs to be a thing here is the camping towel with a little like press that you can roll it through that squeezes out all the water.
You just need a panini machine so you can do your shower and then you just throw it on the panini machine, heat it right back up, give it to your bassist, let him use the panini towel.
Yeah.
No, that's good. If a camping towel works well for him, then that's absolutely awesome. I like the fact that it folds up really small. My issue is that they retain water really well. That's the nature of what a towel does. Really, ideally, if you could have a quick drying towel, that's what you need. But it's like, literally, I have more than one occasion gotten out of the shower at Planet Fitness, dried myself off, and then start getting dressed, and I'll just go over to the hand dryer machines and just stand there for like 20 minutes trying to dry it out as much as possible so I don't have this gross swamp towel. And most of the time, it still doesn't work. I've thrown away so many towels on tour. It's like a home towel that I had for a long time. Never should have left my home. And then it did. And then it got gross, nasty mildew, swamp towel. Only thing it's good for after that is pranks. Slapping your bassist while he sleeps and stuff like that.
Slapping the bass.
Does this towel smell like chloroform?
This again shows my privilege of doing mainly bus tours, but I would borrow a girl's hairdryer to dry off my towel. That was definitely a thing that I've done at points in the past.
What else is life like in heaven?
Air conditioning with a generator that's on all day, even when the motor's stopped.
Internet on your bus?
Not really. We would have MiFis typically, but we weren't allowed to use them for streaming because the data charges would add up so quickly. So they said if you want to do streaming, use your phone.
Technically they had it, but it was only if they needed to like print something off really quick.
We were allowed to use it for like emails and surfing the web. It was just, you cannot use it for streaming. No YouTube, no Netflix, nothing like that. Having a bathroom on board was great because, you could get up in the middle of the night, wake up, be like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. Okay, whatever. Running water was great, although it was not potable. Microwave, mini fridge, all that good stuff. But I want to give a shout out to Pickwick Commons. We've had them on the show a couple times. The return of live shows and touring Adam Loki of Pickwick Commons. If you want to hear that, go to bandhive.rocks/85 or find it in your favorite podcasting app, wherever you're listening to this right now. They had a setup where they had a generator in their trailer, which would provide power to outlets in their van. It was in the trailer, the exhaust was vented out the side, but they could just start up that generator. It was properly wired too, so they could run their air conditioning off of it. And they had like a microwave and a mini fridge in the back of the van. Stellar work. Genius. That's what bus life was like too. There was actually, the generator could be flipped on remotely. Like it was under the bus in one of the cargo bays, and the driver could just flip a switch on his panel and the generator kicks on and you can use the microwave. It was amazing.
I love stuff that's well done like that. I get nerdy about how to tour well. There's a guy who used to travel around on the Warped Tour who had solar panels on the top of his van, which allowed him to run all the power in his van while the van was off. And the van was converted to biodiesel. He was just traveling around to grocery stores and asking them for like their leftover fryer oil. And he was using fryer oil to power his vehicle. And on top of that, dude, he was the full 10 yards. On the very top of his car, he had basically a giant cantina where he had a spout where you fill it up with water, and the whole thing was black. And so it would capture the heat of the sun and warm the water up. And inside of his van, he had stripped everything out to where it would fold up or fold down. So when it was folded down, the whole thing was a bed, but then the front part would fold up, and he had a toilet there, but it was all wood underneath, and he like coated it with some type of sealer, and he could shower with hot water standing up inside of his own van. And I was like, this guy gets it. This is multiple levels of like traveling nerddom compiled with each other. You were like the elite traveling crazy person, and I loved it. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do. If you end up going down the rabbit hole, I mean, look into solar energy, biodiesel fuel, or hydrogen fuel cells, or I mean, like, get on Pinterest, dude. There's people out there who have made some of the coolest stuff you'll ever see.
I agree. And, you know, I got to say, I was not that posh, to borrow a term from the Brits, seafaring Brits. We didn't have a shower on the bus, but there are buses that have showers on them. Bandwagons even have showers on them. That would have been the dream. I was this close. I had everything except the shower. Anyway, Matt, speaking of vans, you had a list of stuff that is essential for a van. Do you want to go through that?
Yep, sure. I'll just rattle it off real quick. These are essentials for the van, okay? Water, tools, jumper cables, or a jump starter. A jump starter is a tool that does not require you to have a second car to jump your car. So if your battery is dead, you are in the middle of nowhere, you can't flag down somebody to jump your van, a jump starter will do that. A tire pump is also another one, or air compressor. You want the ability to, if you have a slow leak or something like that you've discovered before it's too late, tire pumps are fantastic. Spare tires. Spare tire or spare tires, plural. We always had multiple tires in the back of our trailer, or actually I guess in the front of our trailer, for whenever we needed to have any type of spare changed. And we wouldn't do a regular little donut. We actually bought a fifth tire of the same type of tires that we have on our vehicle. So that way, if something goes wrong, you're actually replacing it with a full-size tire that's not going to be taking or bearing too much of the load itself. So having an additional regular size tire and rim, realistically, if you just have the tire, you're still going to need to go in and take the tire to a place and have them spin it, balance it, put it on. But you'll want an extra rim and tire so that way you can just swap it out side of the road and carry on. And then you can worry about it the next day rather than having to get towed to somewhere and having to deal with that whole nightmare. A trailer brake. Trailer brake is incredibly important because when your trailer is full, you are a battering ram. You want the ability to stop on a dime. That is only possible with a trailer brake. If you don't know what a trailer brake is, learn about it, buy one, get one installed. They're not very expensive, and it will literally save your life and the life of the car in front of you who you smash into accordion style when you come over a turnpike and there's a random traffic light on the highway. Because for some reason, there are places that do that. There's a lot of places in this country and in other countries, I'm sure, where the traffic lights systems or where traffic piles up in certain cities, it doesn't make sense. And if you're not poised and ready to strike with something like a trailer brake and able to stop on a dime, it can result in some serious injury or death. So trailer brake, very important. A med kit. You want a med kit, period. You're carrying heavy equipment. Somebody gets hurt. You need the ability to treat it. So slashes, gashes, you want types of neosporin, bandages, wraps, things like that. Be nice to have, a small amount of pain medicine, maybe even a small amount of Benadryl, like I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of different things that you can put in here. I have asthma, so it's nice that my med pack on the bus has an inhaler in it, just in case I lose mine while I'm on tour too. So that way I have, kind of think of it like a digital copy and a hard copy. I have my inhaler in my pocket, but if for some reason I forgot mine, I still have the hard copy in the med pack in the van. Very important to have. You want fluids for your vehicle. Oil, gas, windshield washer fluid, brake fluid, water for your vehicle as well. These are all things that if for some reason a light comes on while you're in the middle of nowhere, you have an emergency supply that allows you to not be stranded in the middle of nowhere. I stress this a bunch because I'm a West Coast touring artist. That is a majority of where we do our touring because we have to do big, huge, long tours to hit over the East Coast. So a lot of our drives are really long and really in the middle of nowhere. Having those fluids can literally be the difference between a life or death situation. So have a small little milk crate in your trailer with those things in it. Extra locks for all your doors, locks for the tongue on your trailer, and potentially even some extra locks just in case something happens to the ones that you have. Traveling around on the road, things like rock salt, dirt, grime, mud, they get kicked off the road while you're driving. And some of the time you'll get to the spot where like you can't even get a key in your locks. So sometimes it's great to have extra locks for replacing the locks that you have, and also just to make sure that all of your stuff is extra protected. It's also a great idea to make sure that the locks that you purchase are locks that cannot be cut by a bolt cutter, because you do not want your stuff stolen. And believe it or not, nefarious people are out there, whether we like it or not. So it's best to not assume they don't exist and plan accordingly. There are circular master locks, which have just a small thing on the top. The lock feels just like locking a deadbolt on a door. They're circular and they have a small gap in the top, so you actually can't cut those with bolt cutters. Those are great locks. Propane grill and propane. If you're going to be doing a lot of your cooking on the road to keep costs low, it's fantastic to have a small little Hobart propane grill or Coleman or whatever, and some propane. That way you can make all sorts of fantastic meals with stuff that stays very well. If you travel from Walmart to Walmart, you can literally just go in and buy the groceries you need for the morning, come out, cook in their parking lot. Everybody eats, you dispose of the trash while you're still there, you clean up, and then you leave. How do you cook and eat? Well, you have to have utensils. So that's the next piece. Spatula, tongs, whatever tools you need for whatever thing. Also a little scrub brush for cleaning. You want scrub brush, maybe some soap, and some paper towels. A lot of the time, and I'm very proud to say this, we have been the absolute crazy people inside of a Walmart bathroom scrubbing off a cast iron pan with soap and a scrub brush in Walmart bathrooms. If you're going to be a touring artist, you're going to get seen in this light eventually, and then people are going to think you're crazy. But the thing is, the reason we're able to live our lives like nobody else can is because we're willing to live our lives like nobody else will. So don't be afraid of having to do things like that. It's okay. You'll get some weird looks, but there's weirder things that happen in Walmart bathrooms. So paper towels, soap to clean off. As for your actual van, cleanliness is really important. So you want something like a broom for cleaning in and out, cleaning supplies for keeping everything nice and tidy while you're in there. Floor mats. You want 2 floor mats. You have an indoor floor mat and an outdoor floor mat. Your outdoor floor mat goes outside of the van as soon as you get to your next destination. You have one outside because you don't know what the terrain is going to be. Maybe it rained there. You want something that somebody can wipe their feet on the outside. And then you want something that when they go inside, they can take their shoes off and set them on it. You're still going to get your van dirty. There's no way around it. But when you live in this thing, the last thing you want to be doing is getting it as dirty as possible. So having mats can be really, really helpful. And then whatever you don't get off with the mats, you do with a broom and cleaning supplies. The last item I have on the list for emergency situations is extra blankets. We've mentioned some hot weather touring things to have. This is a cold weather touring thing to have. We have slept at the top of the Continental Divide before. It was very cold. It would have been nice to have extra blankets. In turn, we ended up turning the van on in the middle of the night, letting it reheat because it just got so cold. So you can never have too many blankets when it comes to saving somebody's life or saving your own life or not freezing to death, because that sounds pretty terrible. So have some extra blankets, water, really the core essentials. And then on top of that, a few things for cooking, a few things for cleaning. If you just try to think about what the most basic form of living looks like and really apply that to your life. If there's some things that you can't live without, maybe you absolutely positively have to have product X in your life or whatever as far as cleanliness goes. Maybe I need a shower bag or whatever for all of my toiletries. Then that's fine. Then that should be something that's high up on your priority list. So different people are going to organize things differently. In my experience, it doesn't matter what you bring. It's all going to get destroyed, lost, smashed, or ruined anyway. So that brings me to the small list of things you shouldn't bring. Don't bring really expensive electronics that don't have the proper cases for them. We already been over, don't bring a towel. I don't like bringing bread. I would prefer stopping at a place along the way to purchase bread. Bread gets smashed so freaking fast. It literally is you buy bread and then you make one sandwich and then one of your idiot band members has kicked it on the floor and stepped on it and it's ruined immediately. And then you forget to throw it away, and then 3 weeks later you find this disgusting moldy smushed loaf of mold that reeks up the van. So basically perishables, fruit. Your van gets really hot, so things that are going to expire with heat. Those are really, really bad to have in the van, so make sure you don't have those.
Stinky foods.
Yeah, stinky foods, absolutely. Because you're changing climates with like humidity and stuff like that, it's just anything that is not going to be favorable for that specific climate. Try to only bring as much food as will last for like 2 days in terms of like whatever supplies you're buying at the grocery stores, with the exception of dry foods or canned foods. So the dry foods and canned foods you can have last a while because that's more of your emergency supply and they could literally last for a long time. But if you're going to buy a package of chicken, you need to cook all of that chicken. If you're going to buy a thing of jelly that needs to be refrigerated after it's opened, you need to use as much of that jelly as humanly possible. And that's like a 2-day item. After 2 days, it gets thrown away. A thing of eggs. If you get a dozen eggs, you use half of them, that is a 2-day item. If you ever try to use some of these items that are going to like basically get really nasty really quick, you are going to get really sick really quick. We refrigerate and cook things for bacterial purposes to kill as much bacteria as possible. So when you're eliminating one of those 2 components, you are basically opening up yourself to 50% of the potential bacteria. If you don't keep it cold, then the bacteria that only survive in the heat and don't survive in the cold are still there. And then you cook it and they're still there because they survive in the heat, not in the cold. So that's why we cook from cold to hot or from fresh to hot. So make sure that you're, whatever supplies you're bringing, it's not super nasty, gross stuff. Dry goods are fantastic. Lots of tea, lots of water, extra gas, long phone charger, headphones, Benadryl, something to keep you entertained and sane. Who knows? Maybe you're lucky. Maybe you get entertained and stay sane by being with your bandmates, which is a fantastic thing too.
Or by an insane clown posse.
Don't be afraid to bring your favorite hobbies on the road with you, because a lot of the time that will be the difference between whether or not you make it through the tour or not.
Yeah, agreed. Just one last thing to add to all this, and that's what would you add? Let us know in the Bandhive community, bandhive.rocks/group, or search for Bandhive on Facebook. Looking forward to seeing what you would add to your backpack on the road. That does it for this episode of the Bandhive podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening, and we meant it. We want to hear what you always pack for tour or shows in your personal bag. What can you not live without? So head on over to the Bandhive community on Facebook, either by searching for us on Facebook or going to bandhive.rocks/group to be automatically directed. Again, that's bandhive.rocks/group. We look forward to seeing you there in the community, talking with almost 600 like-minded musicians who are ready to take their band seriously. So please take a few seconds to join us and then jump in on the discussion. We'll be back with another new episode next Tuesday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time in your favorite podcasting app. If you haven't already subscribed to the show in that app, please do so. It takes just a few seconds, and it means that you will not miss out on any new episodes. In the meantime, I hope you have a great week, stay safe, and of course, as always, keep rocking.